All right. So we back with another episode of Iwill podcast. Got a special guest today. I'm not going to do too much of an intro, but I remember seeing this young fella in a school system I used to work for a while back. I'm not sure, I just used to see him around the building, but every time I noticed him, he was always just cool folks, laid back, just looked like he was just willing to come in and get the job done. And every time I asked about him, people always spoke highly of him. So I figured, hey, I'm gonna get him on the show and let him share his heart with us. So, look, man, I'm gonna jump straight into it.
All right.
Um, I like to break the ice with this question, man.
Okay.
Where you come from, man? Like, what kind of folks you grew up around? What kind of family you got? Like, give me an origin background story of Mr. Christian King.
Well, I grew up and I'm still residing in Dublin, Georgia,
Right.
home of the Fighting Irish. So it's still the same. Nothing's changed. I remember you from when you were the band director. You bought some flavor
Oh
to
yeah, man.
to the to the
Yeah, man.
system. Yes, to the system. I was born in the church. I was born 1997, March the 10th, 1997. Baptist all over. I know everything, all the hymns and all that. Do I still sing them? It depends, but I know most of them anyway.
So you come from a family your most of your family upbringing was in the church.
Church, yeah.
Church. So
Church.
like as a young buck, a young mustache growing up, man, like uh what was the household like, man? What kind of folks did you have? Like what
Well,
was a typical day in y'all household?
my mom is she's a retired educator now.
Right.
My dad, he was a retired military sergeant. So structure every day, like wasn't no playing around. I couldn't play video games during the week like
Oh,
everybody else could. I had to wait till the weekend to play. The schoolwork was top priority. I was on a schedule. I was playing sports, basketball, football, baseball. So it was all about structure growing up.
so like when it came to like, specific roles of parents, by the way, you got siblings, you got
I
brothers
have,
and
I have
sisters?
I have an older sister. She resides in McDonough, Georgia.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with that area.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was just y'all two growing up.
Just us two. Yeah,
Oh, man, I ain't gonna lie. Now I come from a deep family. It
yeah,
was six of us, three
yeah,
boys, three girls, man.
yeah.
So your structure. I think if your parents had a few more kids, it would have been a little bit more difficult to kind of tame
Mm,
everybody all at once. Not
right,
saying they couldn't have did it, because I
right.
know how the military households go, man. It don't matter
Yeah,
how. If
you're right.
whoever military in that house that's used to structure, man, they
Yeah,
gonna have the whole house locked in. So
yeah.
so for you as a kid, man, you growing up in the church, your family in the church, did you kind of, growing up in school, I know like a lot of preachers' kids or just people that grew up in church in general, like church going families, their kids kind of caught a lot of flack amongst, folks in the school. Like
Mm,
friends, they'll clown you because you can't do certain things or you don't have
yeah.
certain freedoms that they have. So like what was that like, man, with your friends, knowing what kind of folks you, grow up with? How what that was like for you, man, being a kid in the church growing up and then going to Dublin City schools, man.
Right. All eyes were on me. They knew my people. I didn't have any room for error. So anything I did, whether it be an adult or somebody, they know they're gonna tell my parents what I did.
Right.
So it was like I didn't have any, I couldn't do this, that, and the third. I could just, sneeze the wrong way. And they'll just say, oh, Christian sneezed the wrong way. But the thing is, my friends, they respected me enough to know that I couldn't do what they did. I didn't
Right.
really start doing other things until I got into college. I was on
Okay.
my own. So during that high school era, middle school, high school era, I couldn't do certain things, but I could do some things, but they respected me enough to not put me in that type of situation.
So for the most part, your friends kind of just that's a good thing, man. Because I ain't gonna lie to you, like
Yeah.
I'm an old head. Well, I ain't gonna say really old head, but I feel like I'm getting closer to that. Because
Yeah.
I was born in the '80s,
Yeah.
so growing up in the '90s, bro, it was
Yeah.
like if you there was a point in time my parents didn't go to church, but when
Mm.
my parents did finally, devote their lives to the Lord. the whole household had to go to church.
Right.
And so we were used to kind of two different dynamics, not having a lot of structure when it comes to God, and then
Mm-hmm.
going from no structure spiritual to, okay, we all finna be Christians up in this house. We finna all do this. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was hard to transition. And so when people kind of caught wind of, how we were living,
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of like confusing. So a lot of my friends, I used to get clowned a little bit about it. But, you growing up, born in the 90s, I think as far as the generations got apart, I think it wasn't so much of a hard time for some people. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Unless you was a preacher's kid now. They
That's
always kind of caught it, bro.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
I'm familiar with Dublin City schools. I'm
yeah,
familiar with the environment now. I ain't gonna lie, man. It's kind of grimy a little bit growing up as a young buck.
yeah, yeah,
Cause I ain't gonna lie, you got a lot of kids that ain't got that structure that you have, my brother.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I'm gonna throw this question out there,
Okay.
and I ask everybody this. I want you to give me some of the. It may be a story, it may be a series of stories, but since you kind of had structure, I know everybody has to kind of find their way to God, or
Mm-hmm.
God finds him way to you in some kind of at some point in your life. What were some times where you really like you had your first encounters with God? Like where were you at in your life? How old were you, and what was going on? Like when you started to have your first encounters where you knew it was God for
Mm-hmm.
yourself, not because that's what you were taught and what you were raised on.
My first encounters, I've been in the church all my life.
Right.
Um, High school, but when I got to college, that's when I learned on my own. That's
Oh
when I
yeah, for
learned
sure.
how to really
For sure.
lean. I know, like, didn't have that much money, trying to figure out what I was going to eat. The thing about it, I worked. I came home and worked some, but it's other stuff I had to deal with. So it's like, you probably dealt with it, having that professor that's not too, how can I say, in a nice way, how can I say it? He or she wasn't too kind, or, didn't show grace.
Right.
So basically, I had to deal with stuff like that. I had to deal with temptation from the ladies. Because on the college campus, that's you meeting all kinds of women and,
Yeah.
you know, guys, I know it was at my campus at the college I went to, we had a lot of parties on like the last day of class. So like we had like night parties and they'll be
Yeah.
on campus. All I smelled was marijuana all throughout.
Hey, look, man,
All throughout.
that's a familiar smell at all colleges, man. Don't
Yeah.
I
And the
don't care where you go, bro. You gonna see two things, and it's real quick. I don't
yeah,
care if you was about that life or not. You
yeah,
gonna get very familiar with the smell
yeah,
of marijuana
yeah,
and the smell of alcohol on
yeah.
somebody.
'Cause,
Two things. So look,
yeah,
man. Hey, it's part of the world what we live in. So hey, I don't think you could have
yeah.
avoided if you tried.
And then I got my first experience with an edible and all that. So I was just trying to, feel my way out
Yeah.
through the, not necessarily fitting in, but I was trying to find something that'll like be like my scapegoat.
Yeah.
Being out on my own, trying to meet new people, trying to, feel my way through. But like I had friends, but when I got to college, I realized that friends are few, few
Oh
in
yeah.
number.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
they get to switching up. You start realizing who the
yeah,
real ones.
yeah. And then with all of that, I had to realize everything that I've been taught, and I wasn't preaching at that time. I didn't preach till couple years later. Everything that I've been taught was coming to the light. I
Mm.
knew right, and I was doing the opposite of right when I got to college. I was sheltered most of the time, so I really didn't have that that full experience till I got to
So
college.
you said you was sheltered, like
Mm-hmm.
so. Do you think that was kind of like because everybody when you're growing up under your parents and when you get older, you kind of realize that even though I may have had good parents or bad parents, whatever you had growing up,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of could see like some of the flaws that they had as parents.
Right.
Do you think being sheltered was like a bad thing, or it just came with the territory of
It
how you grew up?
it just came with the territory per se, because they didn't want me to make the same mistakes that they've made.
Okay.
So that in a sense they were trying to protect me. But when I got to college, it kind of hurt me a little bit, trying to, doing things that I shouldn't have done.
Right.
But I realized that when I got older, like, okay, stuff still comes up. Not perfect by any means, but I know better now. The saying goes, when you know better, you do better.
Right.
So I thank God for that, all that I've experienced during that time. Final exams, man, I tell you, like, I wasn't used to like failing anything like that in high school. It was a piece of cake to me.
Right.
But when I got to college, man, I failed my math exam, my first math exam, final exam. And I called home crying, and my dad answered the phone. He was like, "There's no need to be crying. It's time to man up. Get out your
Yeah.
feelings and do what you need to do. You're in the real world now. It's not
Right.
nothing will be handed to you. You got to work for it." So that's
Mm.
when I started, building up and coming around.
Now with so I know some people, and it's a good thing that parents do raise their kids right, man, because I think a lot of people on the outside looking in, when some people see a lot of structure where they didn't have it, they kind of they kind of look at you a little weird, like you missed out on something or you're missing out on certain parts of life just because your folks chose not to allow you to be exposed or just kind of try, like you said, protect you from certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I know as you said that when it came to women, now one thing I had a problem with when I first got to college, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I wasn't used to the girls chasing me ever. Like, I'll be honest, like
Yeah,
nobody was chasing me, bro.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so when I got to college, it got real like different.
Mhm.
The first time I had girls checking for me,
Yeah.
and me not like really having that kind of experience with a lot of girls,
Mhm.
and stuff like that in middle of high school, just girls in general, man. I mean, I like girls, but it was kind of like,
Yeah.
they wasn't checking for me because I was so awkward. I wasn't comfortable with myself. And
Mhm.
so, but in college, I was starting to, come into my own, and
Right.
I was getting crazy little comments from girls like you being sedity or and it was
Yeah.
overwhelming
Yeah.
because for the first time, I had women actually chasing after me, like
Yeah.
trying to get with me.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming. So I kind of lost my way a little bit.
Yeah.
I think for the first time I realized I had a problem with, the female species, man. I was just like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
that was kind of like my kryptonite. So like you
Yeah.
growing up, did you ever experience a time or just any point in time in your life where you kind of just you recognize that you had a weakness and you just kind of fell off and you had to find your way back?
Yeah.
Or, explain what that was like for you if you ever experienced that.
Well, speaking from experience and being a preacher, most of the time preachers get a bad rap for being womanizers and all that and the third.
Right, right.
Well, the biggest thing for me when I first got called into the ministry, my pastor and my dad, they sat me down and was like explaining to me what I'm going to have to deal with in the ministry. But the first thing, they wasn't worried about preaching or none of that. The main focus was women. Be careful of the women that you associate yourself with because they
Right.
can make or break your ministry. So that was my kryptonite when I first got into, the ministry. I had to, be careful of who I gave my attention to, and I'm still careful to this day. I thank God for the spirit of discernment because
Right.
if I didn't discern certain things, I would have been in some messed up situations. But, I thank God for his grace.
Mm.
His grace, many people don't understand. Grace, it keeps us day
Look, man,
by day.
that word grace, man, like it's crazy. I'm almost 40 now. And you know, I hate to say this, but it's so true, man. I'm almost 40, but I feel like some of this stuff, it's like I knew what it was, but it's like I'm learning it for the first time all over again in different seasons in my life. And my wife was telling me something the other day because we were talking about certain family members in our family and how we kind of more so me. I was kind of telling her how I kind of wish certain people in my family would just see things and understand that they're going in the wrong direction. And she was like, but you got to understand, Arthur. She was like, you got to have basically got to give people grace and allow them to grow. Just like God gave you, He was patient with you and gave you
Mm-hmm.
grace to you decided to make that decision.
Right.
She was like, you see how He gave you enough time to come into that.
Mm-hmm.
She said, you got to trust God's grace with everybody else and everything else. Some things, it's just out of your control.
Right.
And the only thing you can have is just grace and set your prayers out and let God do, let God do the intervening. So I'm learning that so much more now in ways that it's crazy because like I knew what it was about, but it's like,
Right.
wow, man, grace is if you were born with the gift to have grace for people, a heart
Mm-hmm.
for people, man, I think that's one of the best gifts you can have. I didn't have that gift, so I had to
Yeah.
learn
Yeah.
how to operate in grace, man. But
Right.
I think the more mature I get and the more seasoned I get, the more I learn.
Yeah.
I'm starting to understand the power of grace, man. And
Yeah.
it's different for everybody, man. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that you mentioned that, man. But look,
Yeah.
check this out. So that leads me to the next thing, man. We grow up. We're looking at young people grow up in a world that just, man, it's just you look to the left and the right, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Like in
Right.
almost every aspect of life, whether it's relationships, um, gender identity, uh, just the respect for the elders. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you could go on and on. What are some of the like from your perspective? You're a pastor, and you see the world too. You see what we're dealing with. What are some things that you are noticing with the young people, man, or just people in general that's like really hindering their establishing a relationship with Christ? Like what are some things just off the top of your head that you just been observing in your
Uh,
years?
fear, fear,
Okay, break that down for me.
fear of what other people will think if they try to do the right thing. So basically, I teach middle school social study. Okay. I see middle school students every day. I got, I have 144 students. So it's like I see a lot of them. And most of the time, some of them, be real with you. Some days are better than others.
Right.
But you see, like the kids that's trying to fit in that were taught the correct way, and you see the dynamics. Okay, I see a lot of kids to where they're having to raise themselves.
Oh yeah.
They don't have any family support or none of that stuff. So my job, I'm a teacher. That's my vocation. But my other part is being a preacher as well. So I try to incorporate that, trying to get down to their level, you know, seeing they're doing something they're not supposed to. I won't yell at them, I'll just, correct them in a, calm voice. And most of the time with this generation now, the way we listen, I'm a preacher, I'm a Baptist preacher, I hoop and holler, but with this generation, they don't get down with all that, all
Oh
that
no,
extra stuff.
you gotta approach
Yeah.
them
So
different.
you gotta like kind of take baby steps and break it down with them. And if they and honestly, I tell them all the time, I lead by example. I can't tell you to do something if I'm not doing it myself.
Right.
So I give them a prime example. If you see me on my cell phone while I'm supposed to be teaching, that means you can be on your cell phone because I'm not technically supposed to have my cell phone out while I'm
Right.
teaching. So I'm saying I got to do something. I got to set the example for you. So I got to put my phone to the side. You got to put your phone to the side. And then we got to come together and try to
Right.
figure this thing out. And most of the kids at this Dublin city, you know this just as well as I do,
Right.
they're, don't have the best situations.
Of course.
So it's like most of the kids, most of the places I preach at, the kids attend that church.
Okay.
I've had the chance, being a basketball coach, to invite some of my players to my church so they can see, he's not just talking, just to be talking. He's actually doing what he's supposed to be doing. And granted, I'm not perfect, but I want to set that example for the
Right.
younger generation to follow. I tell them everything I've done. I be real and transparent with them. Any topic, anything they want to discuss with me.
Right. I'm glad you are transparent, man. I'm an educator as well, man, and I've
Yeah,
had the opportunity to teach both middle and high school. So
yeah,
I'm in my 14th year right now, currently. And I ain't gonna lie, man. Like you said, the generation now, you gotta be strategic when you approach them. I'm
yeah,
noticing they do care way too much about everybody. I don't know
yeah,
if that's
yeah.
mostly due to social media and how
Right.
they perceive themselves or how they think the world perceives them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm noticing a lot of young ladies are just not confident in their natural beauty that God gave them. They got to throw on lashes.
Right.
The so in. By the time they made up, brother, they
Mm.
don't even look like themselves
Right.
anymore.
Right.
Young men, it's like everything's a fad. Whatever one is
Mm-hmm.
doing, everybody's doing it. And me, I was always kind of against the grain. So it's kind of like for me, not just because I wanted to be that guy, just that I didn't naturally fit in with the world. I was kind
Mm-hmm.
of awkward from the day one, brother. And
Yeah.
I think that's why I didn't really have a lot of female friends when it came to, because they weren't like anybody that was awkward or wasn't an alpha,
Mm-hmm.
male or whatever that is, they was not checking for you. So
Yeah.
for me, not being like a lot of people kind of really helped me establish my relationship with God. Just because,
Mm-hmm.
I was already different from the get go. And when I realized the harder I tried to fit in or just be a part of the world, the more it kept rejecting me.
Right.
I, I tend to seek God, but I had to kind of feel my way back to Him because for some reason, I don't know, I had a problem with just staying the course. I'll stay the
Mm-hmm.
course and then, I'm going to go out this way for a while, come
Mm-hmm.
back. I'm gonna stay the course. Here's something else. And
Right.
it's like I wasn't consistent. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing that, because I experienced that to a little, extent growing up, I have to look at it, okay, these are the young generation. It's just more of that. But
Mm-hmm.
there's so much more distracted now, man. So,
Right.
I'm gonna finish up with this question right here, man. Like I have a goal, not a New Year's resolution or nothing, but I have a goal in this season in my life. At 38 years old, I want to be fruitful. I want to bring in some younger people specifically to disciple and kind of guide them,
Mm-hmm.
in the right path. That's a goal for me. I want to produce fruit. I know that my life is not guaranteed, man. A perfect example, man. Guy, you know him well, Mr. Stuckey or Dr.
Right.
Stuckey
Right.
before he passed.
Right.
Man, I really looked up to him, even though he was
Mm-hmm.
like a little brother to me, age
Right.
wise. He was very seasoned, man,
Right.
very composed, man,
Right.
and I always looked up to him because of that.
Right.
It's
Right.
like, man, the way he carried himself, you would think he was about 60 years old
Right. Right.
just because how he conducted himself, man. And I admired that about him. I always look forward to playing the faculty student basketball game every year,
Yeah.
man, because we used to go out there and take it to him.
Yeah.
And I used to just like, man, he's so fruitful just by how he conducts himself. People want
Mm-hmm.
to know what is it that could that's about him that, and I realized that was the light, man. That was
Mm-hmm.
God's light.
Yeah.
Just by the way he carried himself, it was an
Right.
example, making people curious to know and
Right.
drawing them,
Right.
in that direction. So my goal is to be in a sense like that.
Right. Right.
I've always been good with the kids, but I really can't say I produce any fruit, man. I may have
Yeah.
inspired them. I may have been a positive, figure to them, but I
Mm-hmm.
haven't really, been fruitful. So that's a goal for me, man. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have any specific goals in this season in your life, that you're definitely very determined to get after in this season? And what are they and why?
Well, you stated one, consistency.
Right.
A lot of people, struggle with that consistency. For example, I want to lose about 20 pounds, but I can't lose 20 pounds if I'm constantly in Chick-fil-A or McDonald's drive-through line.
Boy,
It's
them chicken sandwiches do it to you. Boy.
yeah. I can't
Hey, I ain't even gonna lie to you,
do
fam.
it.
Like if I didn't run at least 3 or 4 days out the week, bro, I
Yeah,
know I'll be on some
yeah,
weight
yeah.
right now.
But yeah, it is one of them things, consistency, because many people, they find themselves, they want to have this and that, but consistency is the main thing for me. Um, I want to at least, my goal is to at least reach 2 people, whether it be female or male, lead them to Christ.
Right,
Uh, the Bible says he rejoices over one. 2, that'll be a good enough goal right there. If I can reach 1, that'll be fine. But I want to do 2,
right,
reach 2 to Christ. Um, Another goal of mine, and I told people to be a better me, be a better you.
right.
Whatever you need to work on in this new year, don't make a resolution about it. Just do better.
Yeah,
You know what you need to do, and everything. Just be a better you. You don't have to try to please anybody,
right.
because 9 times out of 10 you're not going to please everybody with the decisions you make.
That's
So I
true.
just tell them, be a better you and let God take the wheel.
Man, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I really do look forward to you coming to speak at the Black History program.
I'm looking
Um,
forward to
and the reason why is because you will be able to say some things that I can't really say because I'm not in the position to,
it. Mm,
being that that's my primary place of work.
mm,
But usually when we have opportunity to let speakers come through, man, I really think it's very beneficial, especially people that are God filled. I've always experienced those speakers. They have a way of just when they're God filled, man, and
mm,
God is moving in them, man. That message, it hits home for those kids. And like you said, you ain't gonna be able to please everybody. You ain't gonna be able to really reach everybody, but those
mm,
few that's out there that just heard it,
mm,
man, you'd be surprised that seed being planted, and when they'll actually use that information,
mm,
or that was shared with them for their later life, man. It's always one or two out there that actually hears everything the speaker's saying, and
right,
you know I'm looking forward to that, man. Now I ain't
right.
gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I gotta get you some Iwill podcast gear, man. I'm gonna need you to
Okay,
email me shirt size if you got some
okay.
family members or whatever. I'm
Oh yeah,
trying to, like I said, the purpose of this podcast, I wanna reach everyday people, man. I ain't trying
uh,
to reach no celebrities. I ain't trying.
yeah,
We see enough of that social
right,
media.
right.
What I want to do is reach folks that's got everyday lives, that's out here in the trenches
Mm-hmm.
with everyday people in everyday situations that
Mm,
ain't got no spotlight on them, and what the
mm,
what the average person is dealing with every day.
right,
What the person that nobody really notices beyond the workplace, what they dealing with, or beyond the neighborhood, what they dealing with. So
right.
that's the goal, man. I wanna get out there and get at the people that's
Oh yeah,
really, that's on the fence with their faith, and I really want to
yeah,
draw them in. And hopefully, man, these episodes, by you sharing your people that know you, by people that know who you are, they
right.
might, oh, that's Coach right there. I ain't even know
Yeah,
he was on that. They
yeah,
might tune in, man. Look, I don't
yeah,
even care if 4 or 5 people view the video, man.
yeah,
If those 4 or 5 viewed it and may have shared it once,
yeah.
somebody that didn't see it may get it, man. And
Mm,
ultimately, man, I'm hoping that we can reach as many people in every platform that we get. I mean, we're educators. We have access to social media. I mean, I know that I'm not a big social media guy, bro. I'm just not. I'm
yeah,
not. But I had to learn that I ain't
yeah,
got to be. I just got to be
yeah.
myself when I do these podcasts. So
Right.
I'm still learning this thing, man.
Yeah,
But look, brother,
yeah.
I do appreciate you, man. I look forward
Appreciate
to
the
seeing you
opportunity.
in February, man.
Right.
Look, when you come through, we gonna make sure you got I ain't gonna say the red carpet treatment, but we gonna roll out a carpet for
Like,
you.
okay,
Make sure you comfortable. You're gonna be
okay,
fed good, man.
all
Bring your
right,
folks out. I
okay,
want this message to really impact the students. And bring it, man. I'm talking about bring it. Like come
okay.
through the door ready to get it. Cause you know how these kids are. My
Right.
students ain't no different from yours, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
So with that being said, man, look, God bless you, man. I'm gonna let
Bless
you go
you.
for this evening.
Yes, sir.
I post these videos every Sunday,
Okay,
so just
okay,
check that out.
okay.
It'll be around noon on Sunday. Check
Okay.
it out, share it. If you know of anybody that wants to be on here to share their story, man, their first encounters with God. In this first season, I want to get 8 episodes per season
Okay.
of specific topics that God want me to address. So if you know anybody that may be interested, man, hey, send me some info and we'll go from there, brother.
I will. I
All
will.
right, look, man, you be blessed, brother.
Yes, sir. You
I'll
too.
see you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.